Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the shadows of a pirate ship, not to hoist sails or swing cutlasses or hunt for gold, but to do something much, much riskier, try to get some sleep. On a ship full of armed men, rumors, rot, and revenge, that's no small task. In fact, odds are you probably wouldn't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing on the deck of the Cursed Wren, a 30-gun brigantine that smells like sweat, tar, and other things you'd rather not name. The sun slipped below the horizon, dragging the last bit of heat with it. The air now carries a damp chill, but it's better than the stink below. Bare feet pad across rough planks. Men shuffle past with lowered eyes, shoulders hunched, not from cold, but from the heavy dread of what comes next. Night, sleep, or something like it. You're tired. You've been tired for days. Weeks, maybe, but exhaustion isn't permission. On a pirate ship, sleep isn't a right, it's a gamble. Because here's the truth. No sailor ever etched into a journal. There's no such thing as safe sleep at sea. You find a space to lie down, your usual corner behind the barrels near the mizzenmast. You like it there. It's shadowed, harder to see from the stairs, but not so far from the action that you'd miss a scuffle. That's the trick. Hidden, but not too hidden. You slide your body down against the wood. It's rough and splintery. Your shoulders already got a scar from where a knot in the plank snagged you last week. You settle anyway, pull your coat tight over your chest, and tuck your hand beneath it. Your fingers find the handle of your knife. Cold, worn smooth, comforting. Everyone sleeps with a blade nearby. Even the quartermaster, even the cook, even the captain, though his is silver-handled and likely ornamental. Still sharp, though, still deadly, a widely accepted fact. Pirate crews did not enforce strict sleeping schedules. Watch rotations were often informal, negotiated, or abandoned entirely in favor of survival or suspicion. The idea of a peaceful, organized bunk time? That's fantasy. This is chaos with a sail. The man nearest you snores, loudly. That's helpful. Snoring is safety. It means he's breathing. It means he's still there. But then again, snoring also makes him a target. You've seen it happen. A snore too loud, a step too quiet, a knife, and a barrel stained dark. Nobody talks about that one, but they all remember. The thing about pirate ships is that justice is often a matter of timing. If you're caught, it's a crime. If you're not, it's just a mysterious disappearance and a little more elbow room in the hold. You adjust the knife's grip under your coat, just in case. A lesser-known detail. Some pirates develop the habit of sleeping in short bursts, 10-15 minutes at most, between loud noises or shifts in the ship's movement. It wasn't restful, but it was safe-ish. You train yourself to wake at the slightest creak, to jerk alert when the waves feel off, to never, ever trust silence. You shift, finding a slightly less uncomfortable angle. The wood beneath you is still warm from the day, but it's quickly giving way to damp cold. You close your eyes anyway. It's not sleep, it's pretending. Around you, the ship groans in its bones, wood flexing, ropes sighing, sails flapping somewhere overhead. Familiar sounds, almost comforting. But you don't drift. You hover right at the edge of sleep, right at the edge of survival. Historians still wonder how pirates balance the need for sleep with the constant threat of betrayal. Some believe ships developed unwritten rules, informal codes of rest. Others argue that pirates were simply too exhausted to care, that fatigue dulled fear. You don't buy that. Exhaustion makes you more careful. You've seen what happens when it doesn't. Your mind starts to wander anyway. You think of shore, of trees, of wind that doesn't stink of mildew, of beds, real ones, with feathers, and silence, and no knives. You're almost there, almost when a footstep near your head snaps you back. You don't move, just slide your fingers an inch tighter on the knife. You listen. The footstep fades. No pause, no crouch, just someone looking for a place to sleep. Maybe. You exhale slowly. Let the tension bleed out in small doses. The snorer is still going. Bless him. Your eyes close again, but not fully. One lid cracked, just enough to see shadows shift. That's the game. Sleep just enough not to die. And tomorrow, do it again. You don't wake up so much as surface, like a piece of driftwood, bobbing in a sea of stale air and stifled breath. Your back aches, your shoulders numb, your legs are tangled around a barrel's edge, and something damp, hopefully just a coil of rope, is pressing into your ribs. You groan quietly and shift, immediately regretting it. Everything creaks on this ship, including you. The cursed wren isn't a large vessel. 30 men, one cannon deck, and too many rats. Below decks, where most of the crew sleeps, the ceiling is so low you have to bend at the waist just to pass through. The bunks, if they can be called that, are nothing more than wooden shelves nailed to the hull, stacked in rows 3 high, each just wide enough for one body, and not a single spare thought. You never use yours. Too dark, too crowded, too easy to trap someone in a place like that. Instead, you sleep where you can see the sky. Even if that means waking up with a bruised hip and salt crust in your beard, you push yourself up and take in the ship's bones, the beams above, thick with old carvings, the knotted ropes hanging like sleeping snakes, and the soft groan of the boards as the hull flexes in rhythm with the waves. And then there's the smell, that persistent, clinging stench of sweat, mildew, and something sour that no one dares identify. It's a mix of humanity and decay, the perfume of survival. A widely accepted fact. Pirates slept in shifts, but only loosely. There weren't enough beds or bodies to maintain order, so people slept when they could, wherever they could, often wrapped in cloaks or blankets that hadn't been washed in months. If ever, and you're one of the lucky ones, you found a place between the gunwale and a stack of unused crates. You wedge yourself in tight, one leg dangling just above the deck, and try to relax your shoulders. It's hard to relax when your pillow is a coil of wet rope and your mattress is 30 feet of creaking timber, but you do your best. Someone coughs nearby, deep, wet, and flamy. It's Jenkins. Poor bastard. Hasn't stopped coughing since Tortuga. Probably something growing in his lungs. But nobody asks, and he doesn't complain, because complaining is a good way to get voted off the island, or in this case, the ship. You settle again, listening to the sounds around you. The soft slap of water against the hull, the distant creak of the mainmast, the wheezing snores of men who sleep too deeply, the ones who trust too much. A lesser known detail: some pirates believed that sleeping near iron blades, nails, even cannonballs, would ward off bad dreams and worse luck. Superstition? Of course, but that doesn't stop you from resting your head beside your knife every single night. You stare up at the stars, barely visible through the sails. They're warped and wobbly, like they're swimming in warm water. Maybe you're hallucinating. Maybe you just haven't blinked in a while. The rocking helps. You can't deny that. The gentle sway of the ship, the predictable pull of wave and wind, it lulls you, even if you resist. It pulls at your eyelids, like a tired mother rocking a child that refuses to sleep. But you don't want to sleep. Not really, because this ship is a coffin. You feel it in your bones, hear it in the groans of timber and the hiss of water in the cracks. This isn't just a vessel, it's a trap, a prison made of planks and rope, and every time you close your eyes it tightens. Historians still debate how much time pirates actually spent below deck. Some say only in storms. Others claim hammocks were strung from every beam. But most agree the conditions were awful, cramped, sweaty, infested, a breeding ground for paranoia. And worse, you shift again, wincing. You remember a shipmate once saying that after 6 months at sea, even a pile of barnacles would look like a feather bed. You'd laughed then. Now you understand. Your body's covered in bruises. Your skin's peeling from too much sun and too little water. Your eyes burn from salt and smoke and sleeplessness. And still you envy the men who sleep, even the ones who snore, even the ones who probably never wake up. Your head slumps against the crate. Your fingers find your knife's handle again. You let your eyes close, not fully, not yet, just enough, just for a minute, because even if the ship is a coffin, it's also the only thing keeping you from drowning. And in a coffin, at least you know where the danger is. You wake to silence. Not true silence. There's always some distant groan of timber, the slosh of water, the flap of sails straining in the wind, but the kind of quiet that presses against your ears, makes your pulse louder than footsteps, and tells you something might be missing. You blink hard. Still night. Still on the deck. Still wedged beside that half-empty crate. And yet, something's off. It's too quiet. No cough from Jenkins. No muttered curse from Jory in the forward hammock. No rhythmic creak of Baxter's boots pacing on watch, which raises the question, who's watching while you're sleeping? You rise a little, just enough to peer over the crate's edge. The stars are still out. The moon's dipped lower, painting the deck in pale blue. Most of the crew is curled like cats around barrels or hammocks, or lengths of coiled rope, their faces half buried, limbs dangling over crates or railings. Some snore, a few mumble, and the helm empty. No one at the wheel, no one on watch. Your stomach tightens, not out of fear, not yet, but out of recognition. This isn't the first time. It won't be the last. On ships like the Cursed Wren, men fall asleep on duty all the time, from rum, from fatigue, from knowing the captain won't check. But that doesn't mean it's safe. It means no one's watching for ships on the horizon. No one's watching for rogue waves or stray reefs. But worse than that, No one's watching each other. A widely accepted fact. Pirate watches were often loosely enforced. The idea was that everyone took turns, 4 men per watch, 4 hours at a time. But in reality, when rum was cheap and tempers ran hot, duty got optional, especially at night, especially if no one was keeping count. You slide to your feet slow and quiet. The deck is slick in spots. Someone spilled something. Could be water, could be grog, could be blood. Hard to say. You don't stop to check. Instead, you scan faces. Where's Bartley? The new one with the weird teeth and twitchy eyes? You don't see him, not beside the barrels, not near the bow, just shadows. Your fingers tighten around your belt. Knife still there. Good. A lesser known detail. Many pirates slept with their weapons, not just nearby, but physically tied to them. Blades looped through belts, pistols knotted in sashes, even small knives sewn into shirt hems, not because of fear, exactly, but because sometimes the man creeping up on you didn't wait until you were fully asleep. You remember the story of Frey, a short, squat Spaniard with a voice like gravel and a temper like flint. He'd been caught snoring too close to the captain's grog stash, woke up with a broken nose, and no memory of what hit him. No one confessed. No one asked. Lesson learned? Keep one eye open, and if you can't, keep your weapon closer than your dreams. You creep toward the helm, slowly, quietly, your boots soft on the planks. The wind picks up a little, pushing your coat aside, and you let it. It makes noise, covers yours. You round the steps to the stern, still no one, and then a shape moves, just past the capstan, in the crook where the shadows gather deepest. Something shifts, not a full figure, just a shoulder, a glint of metal, a whisper of breath. You stop. The shape stops. You stare into the dark, waiting. Is it Bartley? Is it someone else? Is it someone waiting for you? Historians still debate how pirates organized their night watches. Some claim they used bells and hourglasses, changing shifts like any naval vessel. Others argue pirates deliberately avoided routine to prevent ambush, to confuse spies, or simply because chaos was cheaper than structure. Whatever the truth, one thing's certain: nights were dangerous, not because of storms, not because of the sea, but because men are at their worst when they think no one's watching. The figure steps back, barely audible. You hear a quiet thud, footsteps retreating below deck. You don't follow, not yet. You scan the deck again. Still no Bartley, still no helm watch. You sigh, loud enough to hear it, over your heartbeat, loud enough to remind yourself you're still breathing. You take the helm, not because you want to, but because someone has to. You lay a hand on the wheel, just to steady it, just to pretend for a moment that someone's in charge. Your knuckles are white. The ship is quiet. The wind is rising, and still no sign of the man who should be watching you while you sleep. You glance down toward the crew, still sleeping. You could wake someone, but who do you trust, really? Not Jenkins, not since the deck knife went missing, not Jerry, not after he said what he said in the galley. And Bartley? Well, he's already missing. You look back to the shadows by the capstan, empty now. You let go of the wheel and head back to your spot near the crates. You lie down, knife in hand, eyes half open, because no one's watching except you. By now, you've accepted that privacy is a fantasy, but so is peace, because even when the deck is quiet, the moon is high, and your crewmates are too tired or too drunk to murder each other, something else keeps you awake. It scurries, it chews, and sometimes it hisses. Rats, roaches, and whatever that was last week in the bread barrel that nobody has talked about since. You've long since stopped asking questions about the movement in the dark, or the gnaw marks on your boots, or why one of the ropes on the gunwale twitches when there's no wind. Because on a pirate ship, if it's alive and small and fast, it probably owns the place more than you do. You're back on your side of the deck, trying once again to make your spine align with splintered wood. You shift to your side, less pressure on the bruises, and tug your coat tight. Your boots are tied together, not just to prevent theft, but to make it harder for a rat to crawl in. Lesson learned the hard way, a widely accepted fact. 18th century ships, especially those of pirates, were infested with vermin. The combination of poor sanitation, rotting food, and constant dampness created a haven for rats, lice, fleas, and cockroaches the size of thumbs. Some sailors made peace with them, others went a little mad. You try to keep your distance, but tonight the ship is louder than usual, not from the men, but from the others. You hear it first in the hold, a faint scritching, then a gnaw, then something soft hitting the floor. You tell yourself it's a sack falling or a loose bottle, but in your gut, you know better. You close your eyes, then open them again. You try counting rats. You never get past 4 because the 5th always sounds bigger. There's one that lives below the gun deck, missing half a tail, moves like a shadow. Some of the crew have tried to name it. Some tried to kill it. One swears it winked at him. You believe him. A lesser-known detail. Some pirates began sleeping with dried citrus or tobacco stuffed into their shirts, not for the smell, but because they believed it warded off rats and insects. Did it work? Who knows? But right now, you'd gladly press a whole lemon to your chest if it meant fewer things crawling over your ankles. You shift again, raising your feet off the deck. It's a delicate dance. Keep your body grounded enough to not roll with the ship's sway, but lifted enough to avoid anything that might be nibbling its way across your toes. The man sleeping closest to you jerks. Suddenly, you freeze. He groans, rolls onto his back, and mutters something about eggs. You don't ask. You never ask, because another rule of sleep aboard a pirate ship, you only wake someone if they're actively on fire. A cockroach skitters across the beam above your head. You don't scream. You don't swat. You just breathe long and slow, like you're the one trespassing in its bed. You are. Historians still wonder how pirates managed to sleep amid such pestilence. Journals of the time mention lice treatments made of vinegar and tar, and hammocks hung above deck to escape crawling infestations. But few mention how it felt to lie still while your skin tickled and your ears caught every tiny sound. You lie back down and try to imagine dry land, grass, wind, a room with walls and windows, and a bed that doesn't groan beneath you like it's dying, and no bugs. Absolutely no bugs. You smile faintly, then feel something soft brush your hand. You jolt upright, knife halfway drawn, heart sprinting in your chest. It's just a rope, loose end, nothing more. You sheath the blade and exhale slowly. You listen again. A rat squeaks somewhere below. A thump echoes from the hold. Someone coughs. A roach lands on the barrel beside you with a soft tick, then vanishes. You lie back down. You don't close your eyes. You wait for your pulse to slow, because it's not the people that always keep you awake. Sometimes it's the things that don't walk upright. Sometimes it's the scratching you hear when everyone else is asleep. It's getting later, or earlier, hard to tell out here. The moon's dropped low behind the sailcloth, and the wind has gone strangely quiet. The ship still rocks in lazy, lurching sways, but the air feels heavier now closer. You don't know if it's the coming dawn or something else entirely. What you do know, you're still awake, and you're still surrounded by people you wouldn't trust with a spoon, let alone a sword. That's the real reason sleep is dangerous out here. Not storms, not rats, not the god-forsaken snoring. It's trust, or the lack of it. You sit up and glance around the deck again, slow and casual, like someone stretching after a nap. But you're scanning, counting, and quietly wondering if someone decided to slit your throat tonight. Who would it be? Bartley still hasn't shown up. Jenkins is coughing less, which is somehow more suspicious, and you haven't heard a word from Collins in hours. A widely accepted fact. Pirate crews were often democratic in decision-making, but that didn't mean anyone felt safe. Authority was fluid. Loyalties shifted like sails in the wind. The only thing more unstable than a pirate ship was the man standing next to you. A joke someone once told you back when you joined your first crew: a pirate doesn't sleep. He just waits with his eyes closed. You laughed. Now it feels more like a proverb. There's a guy 3 paces away, thin, missing 2 fingers, always chewing something. He's got that look, the kind that never fully relaxes, never fully sleeps, eyes half-lidded, but always alert. You've caught him watching you before. Once was enough. You adjust the knife under your coat again. It's warm from your hand now, a little slick with sweat. Better that than cold. A lesser-known detail. Some pirates faked sleep, not just to catch thieves or settle scores, but to learn things. Ships are loud during the day, but at night, when men talk in their dreams or mutter into their cloaks, that's when secrets leak. It's amazing what you can hear when people think you're unconscious. You've done it yourself. Pretended to snore, let your arm go slack, kept your breathing steady, while the men at the next barrel whispered about taking the prize early or changing course when the captain sleeps. You never told anyone, not because you're loyal, but because information is worth more than gold when everyone's a suspect. You lie back again, shifting your shoulders until they settle into a groove between the deck boards, and you try to give in to rest, but you can feel someone watching you. You're sure of it. You peek through half-lidded eyes, thin guys staring again, not moving, just chewing and watching. You don't blink. You don't breathe too deeply. You just stare back until he finally looks away. Historians still wonder how discipline was maintained on ships where every man carried a blade and drank like it was the end of the world. Some say the pirate code helped outlining punishments for stealing, fighting, mutiny. But codes are only as strong as the men who follow them. And at night, with no witnesses, codes get quiet. You let your head fall back, breathing through your nose. The smell is terrible. Everything smells like wet wood, spoiled meat, and fear, but you're used to it. It's the smell of not dying, and as long as you smell that, you're still part of the crew. You close your eyes again and picture the last man who trusted too easily. You remember the pool of red beneath his hammock, the way no one asked any questions, just shifted their gear a few feet over and went back to sleep. Because on a pirate ship, trust is a risk, and most men don't gamble in their sleep. There's a point in every night where your mind does something strange. Not dreaming, not really. It's more like floating, like your thoughts are on a tether, drifting just far enough away from your body to feel detached, but still tied to the ship by something thin and fraying. That's where you are now, somewhere between awareness and nothingness, somewhere between your last thought and the next noise that'll make your eyes snap open, because you're not truly asleep. You're just resting with one eye open. Literally, you've learned to do it. The trick is to keep the lids low, the lashes barely parted, your right eye closed, your left just open enough to catch motion. A flicker of light, a shadow where it doesn't belong. The first time you tried it, your eyeball dried out like old parchment. Now you barely notice. A widely accepted fact. Pirates often learn to sleep lightly, hyper aware of sounds, movement, temperature shifts. The ocean trained them. So did each other. There was no deep REM sleep here, just survival naps. You're still in your corner of the deck, one leg curled under you, the other stretched out toward a coil of rope. Your knife rests beneath your hip now, the handle angled toward your palm. It's not a comfortable position, but comfort's not the point. Survival is. Someone steps overhead, not close, not too close, just enough for the board above you to groan. You don't move, you just breathe. The man's steps continue. 1, 2, pause, then fade. Could have been a latrine run, could have been something else. Either way, you're glad you didn't sit up, because motion attracts attention, and attention gets you killed. A lesser known detail. Some sailors claimed they could identify footsteps by sound alone, knew who was walking by the creak of the boards, the timing of the steps. You're not there yet, but you're learning. You can tell Jenkins from Jory, the captain from the quartermaster. It helps, especially on nights like this. Your eye dries. You blink once, slow, not too obvious. You shift your fingers beneath your coat. The wood beneath you groans slightly. You freeze. 1 second, 2. No reaction. Good. The ship rocks gently, a rhythm you've started to sync your breathing with. In rock left, out, rock right. It's almost soothing if you forget what happens when you let go too fully. You've let go once before, just once, weeks ago. It was after a skirmish. Your arm was slashed. Your chest burned from powder. You lay down in a stolen hammock, far below deck. Thought you could rest. Really rest. You woke up with a blade an inch from your throat. Just a warning. The man, whoever he was, vanished into the dark. Never saw his face. Never forgot the message. Don't sleep too deeply. Historians still debate the idea of sleep discipline on pirate ships. Some believe crews enforced rest cycles to maintain alertness. Others argue it was every man for himself. But what's clear is this deep sleep was rare and never truly safe. You blink again. You try to let go. A little. Just a few more heartbeats of rest. Your body aches. Your head feels like it's stuffed with cotton. Your limbs twitch when you get too close to unconsciousness. But your left eye still cracked open, still watching the shadows. Something skitters. A rat, probably. Hopefully, you don't move. You wait for the sound to fade. It doesn't. Instead, it's joined by a second sound, a creak near your crate. Too close, you don't bolt up. That would get you stabbed. You shift just enough to tighten your grip on the blade. You don't breathe. The sound stops. Silence again. Then, a fart. You almost laugh. Almost. It's Jenkins. Snoring again. Loudly. Flatulently. Relief floods you like warm rum. You relax just a touch. Not much, but enough. A breeze moves across the deck, lifting the hem of your coat. You let it. One eye still open. One hand still gripping steel, because this is as close to sleep as you're allowed, and you've learned to take what you can. Eventually, you're forced below. The rain came hard and sudden. Sheets of cold water slamming across the deck like a vengeful sea god with a grudge, and no bedtime. The sails hiss, the ropes scream. You curse under your breath, pull your coat tight, and climb down the narrow, groaning stairs into the ship's belly. You're instantly hit by it. The smell. It's not a surprise. It never is. But no matter how many nights you descend into this pit of sweating bodies and rotting wood, it still curls in your nostrils like a wet, warm finger shoved too far. It's not just the stink of men, not just the salt and mildew, or the rancid meat oil, or the buckets that everyone pretends get emptied more often than they do. No, there's something else, something older, thicker, like sickness that's grown claws, like death, trying to be polite about it. A widely accepted fact, the lower decks of pirate ships were nightmares for the nose. Poor ventilation meant every foul thing lingered. Sweat, sickness, blood, mold, unwashed clothes, and worse, the stench became part of the wood, soaked into it, slept beside it. You pause halfway down the stairs. Your hand clutches the splintered railing. You breathe shallow through your mouth. You debate going back up, but the rain's relentless, and lightning flashes above like it's hunting for faces. So you go down, step by step, into the warm rot. It's worse tonight, thick with something sour. You recognize it instantly. Sickness. Somebody started coughing blood again, or not coughing anymore. You glance across the darkness, just a flicker of faces lit by a flickering oil lamp hung from the ceiling beam. Shadows ripple across closed eyes and open mouths. Men lie in hammocks or on the floor sprawled like corpses that forgot to stop breathing. You try to pick a spot, not near the buckets, not too close to the galley hatch, definitely not under the beams that drip with condensation or something less clean. A corner near the powder locker will have to do. You slide down beside a coil of rope and a barrel labeled biscuits that's absolutely lying. Your back presses to the hull. It's slick. You feel the ship creak like it's trying to sigh. Your nostrils sting. You pinch them shut with your sleeve and try not to breathe too deep. A lesser known detail, pirates often refuse to sleep near the sick, not because of cruelty, though there was plenty of that, but because they understood disease better than most. Illness moved quick in tight spaces. One bad cough, and the whole lower deck could start groaning within days. So men distanced, or worse, threw the feverish overboard before they died. You spot Jenkins in a nearby hammock. He's breathing, barely, a wheeze, a rattle, something wet in the lungs. You think about moving again, but there's no clean space left. And at least you know where Jenkins is. That's worth something. You pull your coat tighter, even though it's warm below. Too warm, in fact. Your skin starts to itch, not from bugs, not this time, from knowing you're inhaling air that's already been exhaled by a dozen dying men. The kind of air that lingers in your teeth, the kind of air that remembers you. Historians still debate how pirates dealt with onboard death. Some suggest formal burial rites were observed, with bodies sewn into hammocks and slipped into the sea. Others claim most deaths were unceremonious, especially at night, just quieter in the morning. You lie down on the floorboards. No hammock for you tonight. The boards are warm, wet. You don't ask why. You set your knife beside your hip, palm resting on the hilt. You breathe through your mouth again. It doesn't help. There's a smell beneath the others tonight. Not blood, not vomit, not mildew. It's still. It's waiting. You close your eyes anyway, because you have to, because you can't stay awake forever, because the longer you breathe it in, the more you wonder, whose breath was this before yours, and are they still breathing? Back on deck, after the suffocating hold, the rain has eased to a soft patter, the kind that taps rhythmically on the sails and soothes the senses if you let it. You lean against the rail, tired bones grateful for the fresh air, but sleep still feels a distant, elusive dream, because on a pirate ship, sleep isn't always horizontal. In fact, sometimes it's standing up. You find a sturdy post near the mainmast, wrap one arm around it, and lean your weight just enough to stay upright without effort. It's not glamorous, but it's something, a widely accepted fact. Many sailors, including pirates, often slept while standing or leaning during their watch shifts, especially when conditions made lying down impossible or dangerous. This way they stayed alert and ready, muscles engaged and minds on edge. Your legs ache from hours of standing, and your body hums with tension. But it's better than risking a knife in the ribs while sprawled out. A lesser known detail: some pirate crews developed makeshift sleep belts, leather straps tied around the waist and connected to the ship's rigging to keep watchmen from falling overboard during their light naps, standing guard. Practical, yes, but not exactly comfortable. You glance around the deck. Most of the crew is still below or tucked away in corners. A few stand slumped against railings like ghosts, eyes half closed. You shift your grip on the post and close one eye. The wind whistles softly through the rigging, a lullaby for those who dare to listen. You wish you could fall into it. Historians still wonder how pirates managed to maintain any semblance of rest while constantly at the ready. Was it sheer will or the thrill of danger? Probably a messy cocktail of both. Your eyelids droop, but you resist. The post is solid beneath your arm. The ship creaks in time with your breathing, and for a moment, the world feels steady, almost peaceful, almost safe. Then a creak from below deck snaps you upright. You grip the post tighter, one eye wide open, because sleep may come later, but for now the watch is yours. The ship's deck is a patchwork quilt of hammocks, crates, barrels, and bare planks, each claiming a little piece of space that's supposed to be yours, but never really is. You know there's a hammock somewhere above your head, swaying gently, probably housing someone snoring loud enough to wake the dead, or at least the rats. You used to think hammocks were the pinnacle of pirate comfort, suspended beds, swinging above the mess, keeping you off the wet wood and away from the worst of the vermin. Turns out, they're not much better. You stretch your stiff limbs and lower yourself onto a hard board, a flat plank pushed between barrels, scraped smooth but still unforgiving. It's not a bed, it's a promise, a widely accepted fact. Hammocks became popular on ships because they were practical, easy to stow, kept sailors off damp decks, and swung with the ship's motion to reduce bruising. But pirates, with their limited resources, often had to make do with planks or bare boards. A lesser known detail: some pirates preferred hardboards over hammocks because hammocks could trap pests inside the fabric, making them worse than the deck. So the luxury hammock sometimes became a claustrophobic, itchy trap. You wiggle to find a comfortable spot. The wood digs into your ribs, and the cold slips through your shirt like unwelcome fingers. You close your eyes and listen. The creak of the rigging, the slap of the waves, the occasional bark from a rat fighting over stale biscuit crumbs. Your mind wanders to the space between the boards, those narrow cracks where dirt, sand, and tiny creatures accumulate. You imagine them as little kingdoms ruled by insects and dust, the space between safety and danger, between wakefulness and dreams. Historians still debate when hammocks fully replaced hardboards in pirate quarters. Some say not until the late 18th century. Others believe pirates adapted their sleeping arrangements constantly, depending on the ship and season. You sigh, because right now it's less about history and more about staying awake long enough to make it through the night. Your fingers twitch. You find the handle of your knife beneath your jacket. You grip it and wait. You've heard the stories of men who slept through storms, who dreamed beneath the waves, who never woke to see the sunrise. The sea doesn't care about your dreams. It waits silently, ready to swallow. And when you sleep on a pirate ship, the fear isn't just about nightmares, it's about drowning. A widely accepted fact, pirates faced a constant threat of falling overboard while asleep, especially during rough seas or battle. Without modern safety equipment, a single slip meant a fight against the cold and the currents, or a quick, cold end. You remember that tale from the quartermaster, how a crewmate fell overboard after a drunken stumble, and no one realized until the morning watch. By then, the sea had claimed him, leaving only a faint ripple and a whisper, a lesser known detail. Some pirates rigged simple safety lines or used rope nets below deck to catch anyone who might fall. Others relied on alert watchmen or just plain luck. You tighten your grip on the railing, feeling the chill of the night air bite through your coat. The ship rocks more fiercely now, and your breath catches. You imagine the cold water swallowing you, the salt burning your lungs, the darkness pressing down like a shroud. It's a fear that keeps you awake, heart pounding, senses sharp, but it's also a reminder, a reason to stay alive, to stay vigilant. Historians still wonder how many pirates actually survived long term at sea, given the constant dangers of drowning, disease, and mutiny. Some records show that many crews turned over almost completely within a year. You take a deep breath, let the cold air fill your lungs, and promise yourself once again to keep one eye open, because on a pirate ship, the ocean isn't just the enemy, it's the grave. At first, you thought the sea was your enemy, cold, vast, unforgiving. But over time, you begin to see it differently, because when fresh water runs scarce, the ocean becomes something else, a cleanser, a relentless shower, a bitter baptism that strips away dirt, sweat, and the stench of 100 cramped nights below decks. You lean over the side, letting waves splash up against your face and arms. The salt stings, the cold bites, but it wakes you up, washes away the sticky layers of grime that cling to your skin like a second coat. A widely accepted fact, pirates had limited fresh water on board, rationed carefully for drinking and cooking. Bathing was rare and often done with salt or rainwater, which did more to scrub away sweat and grime than to truly clean. A lesser known detail, some crews used small barrels or buckets to catch rain, which they prized more than gold, especially after long spells without a single drop of fresh water. When rain came, it was a festival, a chance to wash clothes, faces, and spirits. You smile at the memory of the last rainstorm, how the whole crew scrambled for buckets, laughing and shouting, scrubbing with brine and seawater as if it could wash away not just dirt, but the weight of the endless sea. Historians still debate how often pirates bathed at sea. Some argue it was surprisingly regular when conditions allowed. Others say it was a desperate rarity, with many men going weeks or months without a proper wash. You towel off roughly with a faded cloth. The salt water has dried to a crust on your skin. Your hair sticks in salty clumps, but for now you feel lighter, cleaner, almost human, and maybe that's enough to close your eyes for a while. Sleep aboard a pirate ship wasn't just about rest. It was a ritual layered with superstition, fear, and practical survival. You find yourself lying on a narrow plank, the salt air heavy and cool, listening to the ship's soft groans like whispered secrets. Pirates believed certain acts before sleeping could keep them safe. Some tied knots in their clothes, others drew symbols with charcoal on their skin, while a few muttered prayers to saints or sea gods, a widely accepted fact. Many sailors of the era were deeply superstitious, believing rituals could ward off bad luck or the evil eye, especially during vulnerable moments like sleep. A lesser known detail: pirates sometimes kept dream catchers of sorts, small charms fashioned from bits of rope or bone, hung near their sleeping spots to ward off nightmares or spirits. Historians still debate whether these rituals were widespread or simply isolated habits, but for a man trying to survive the unpredictable sea, any comfort was welcome. You trace a small knot in your sleeve and imagine it holding back misfortune, while your other hand remains curled tight around your knife's handle. The night is long, and you know you'll need every bit of luck you can get. You've felt it creeping in before, this quiet, insidious thief of life, the dryness in your throat that no gulp can fix, the dull pounding behind your eyes, the heavy fog settling inside your skull. Dehydration isn't just thirst, it's a slow betrayal, stealing strength and focus when you can least afford to lose either. Out here on the endless ocean, with fresh water rationed like treasure and sweat drying your skin to leather, dehydration is as much a predator as any enemy ship or blade. A widely accepted fact: sailors and pirates alike often suffered severe dehydration on long voyages, especially in tropical heat, which contributed to exhaustion, confusion, and even death. A lesser known detail: pirates sometimes tried to stave off dehydration by chewing on small pieces of salted meat or dried fruit, believing the salt would help their bodies retain water, a risky tactic that sometimes backfired. You run your tongue over cracked lips, the salty residue of sweat mixing with the faint taste of dried blood from a minor bite. Your heart beats a little faster, even though your body feels heavier than ever. You recall a story whispered among the crew of a man who collapsed mid-watch, his mind slipping away as the sun beat down. No one expected him to wake up. Historians still debate how well pirates understood the signs of dehydration and how they managed the delicate balance between thirst and rationing their precious water supplies. Some argue many suffered unknowingly, their decline mistaken for mere fatigue or drunkenness. You close your eyes briefly, willing your body to ignore the warning signs, but the dizziness steals your breath. You clutch your canteen, half empty, and promise yourself you'll stretch out your next sip longer than the last. The ocean's vastness outside seems indifferent to your plight, cold, salty, and endless, just like the battle your body wages inside. Sleep can wait. You must survive first. The hammocks sway gently in the night breeze, their canvas stretched taut, like the sails above, To an outsider, this might look like comfort, an easy cradle to rest the weary body. But you know better. Sleeping aboard a pirate ship means grappling with more than just the hardness of the wood or the creak of the ropes. It's the constant battle against dampness, insects, and the ever present threat of rolling over into the cold, unforgiving deck below. A widely accepted fact, hammocks were widely used aboard ships because they adapted to the rocking motion, reducing bruising and injuries common with sleeping on hard planks. A lesser known detail, many pirates layered their hammocks with straw, old clothes, or animal skins to make them less like death traps and more like beds, though it rarely worked as intended. You might find yourself waking covered in bites, or feeling like you'd been wrestling sea monsters all night. You gingerly shift your weight, trying not to disturb the creaking wood beneath you. The salt air carries faint whispers of the crew's snores and muttered curses. Historians still debate whether hammocks truly improved pirate sleep or simply gave sailors a false sense of security. Regardless, your restless nights seem proof enough that comfort at sea is an elusive myth. You clutch your blanket tighter, eyes half lidded, but never fully closed. For a moment, the world feels softer, like the ocean's gentle lullaby, promising rest, if only you dare to take it. And with that hope, you let your body relax just a little, riding the slow sway of the ship into the fragile arms of sleep. The night around you is filled with a symphony only a pirate's ear could truly appreciate. Not music exactly, unless you count the groans of the ship, the creaks of rigging, and the distant howl of the wind as a kind of eerie melody. Every sound sharpens your senses, pulling you from the edge of sleep back into alertness. The scrape of a boot on the deck, the whisper of fabric against wood, the soft murmur of voices far below, each could mean danger or just a restless crewman shifting position. A widely accepted fact, sailors developed incredibly acute hearing to survive nights at sea, often identifying ship noises or subtle environmental cues that warned of approaching storms or enemy vessels. A lesser-known detail, some pirates trained themselves to detect the faintest shifts in the ship's timbers, believing that a change in sound could signal sabotage or hidden threats. You lie still, your breath slow and steady, trying not to betray your wakefulness with a sudden move. Your ear picks up a subtle drip, water from a leak, or something else. Historians still debate how much these heightened senses actually protected pirates from mutiny, accidents, or nighttime attacks. Some argue exhaustion dulled these abilities over time, making crew members vulnerable. You shift slightly, your fingers brushing the hilt of your knife beneath your coat. The night may be long, but your vigilance is longer. There's a strange rhythm to nights aboard a pirate ship, like a dance you never learned, but somehow can't stop doing. Your body sways between exhaustion and alertness, the two locked in an endless tug of war. You try to surrender to the exhaustion, to let your eyes fall closed, to let your mind drift away like a leaf on the waves. But something, maybe the creak of the ship, maybe the thought of a blade in the dark, pulls you back. You shift your weight, feeling every ache and cramp, every twinge of muscle protesting the hours of wakefulness. A widely accepted fact, sleep deprivation was common among pirates, especially during long watches or battles leading to impaired judgment and dangerous mistakes. A lesser known detail: some crews use small rituals or brief moments of meditation to calm their minds and trick their bodies into brief restorative micro sleeps, lasting just seconds, enough to keep the edge, but not enough to lose control. You close your eyes briefly, savoring the few heartbeats of peace before the world snaps back into sharp focus. The salty air fills your lungs, a bitter reminder that there's no rest here, only survive. Historians still debate how pirates managed the constant strain of sleeplessness, with some believing alcohol helped dull the senses, while others argue it only made the dangers worse. You grip your knife tighter and smile dryly at the irony. It's a dance you'll have to keep stepping to survive another night. The twilight hours aboard a pirate ship are heavy with ritual. These aren't the soothing bedtime routines of peaceful lands, but sharp, hurried actions that blend superstition and necessity into a protective cloak against the night's many dangers. You wipe your face with a salt-stained cloth, fingers trembling slightly. Around you, others do the same. Some cross themselves, others mutter prayers to gods they aren't sure even exist. A few carry small talismans or carved bones, tokens believed to ward off evil spirits and bad luck, a widely accepted fact. Superstitions were rampant among sailors of the era, with many rituals believed to influence fate and fortune, especially during vulnerable moments like sleep or battle. A lesser known detail: some pirates swore that sleeping with a blade beneath their pillow could protect them from nightmares or sudden attacks, a practice part practical, part folklore. You glance at your own knife, the cold metal familiar and reassuring. The ship creaks as if agreeing. Historians still debate how deeply these rituals affected pirate behavior. Were they mere habits, or did they genuinely boost morale and survival? Perhaps a bit of both. You settle into your spot, the salt air mingling with the faint scent of tobacco and seaweed, and close your eyes, not in surrender, but in wary hope. As darkness deepens over the restless sea, the oppressive weight of loneliness can sometimes feel heavier than the creaking timbers beneath your feet. Yet in the cramped quarters and the dimly lit decks of the pirate ship, an unexpected balm exists: camaraderie. You find yourself leaning against the rail beside a few weary crewmates, their faces etched with exhaustion, but softened by the faint glow of lantern light. The air hums with quiet conversation, whispered stories, shared jokes, the kind that slip past the watchful ears of officers. The bond among pirates wasn't just about shared danger, it was survival. When sleep is scarce and danger is plenty, the comfort of another's presence can be a lifeline. You feel the warmth of a cracked mug pressed into your hand, rum, cheap and fiery, offered without words, but with unmistakable brotherhood. A widely accepted fact: many pirate crews functioned like tight-knit communities where loyalty and mutual support were essential, especially during long nights at sea. A lesser-known detail: during watches, pirates sometimes sang sea shanties or told tall tales to stave off fear and fatigue, weaving humor and history into a thread that held the crew together. You listen as one crewmate recounts a near mutiny, his voice low and amused, the tension of the moment dissolving into laughter. Even as your eyes grow heavy, you realize that this connection, this shared humanity, is a kind of rest itself. Historians still ponder how much this camaraderie affected morale and survival rates. Could the warmth of shared stories and laughter truly ease the brutal reality of pirate life? Likely more than anyone admits. You lean back against the cool wood, letting the sounds and presence wash over you like a gentle tide. For tonight at least, you're not alone. Tonight the stars are sharp, cold scattered across the sky like shattered glass. You lie beneath them on a rough wool blanket you've laid out between two coils of rope, the deck beneath you still warm from the day's sun. You stare up, not moving, not yet, because sleep doesn't come easy on a pirate ship. It's never the drifting, cozy sort. It's the kind that sneaks up behind you, clubs you over the head, and disappears before dawn. And when it comes, you keep one eye open. Sometimes, literally, you feel it in your spine, that sensation of being watched, even when no one's there. A trick of the shadows, maybe, or maybe not. A widely accepted fact, pirates lived in constant awareness of betrayal. Ships were tight, tense communities, and tempers frayed fast. Arguments over rations, loot, or even a poorly timed joke could spiral into violence. Sleep was dangerous, not only because of storms or sea, but because of the men sleeping beside you. A lesser known detail, some pirates slept with one eye open, not just as a figure of speech. There are journals that describe crew members propping themselves in positions that allowed them to see movement with half-lidded vision. A survival instinct turned into nightly ritual. You shift a little, one hand resting on your dagger. It's always under your blanket, not for show, not for comfort, but for practicality. You've seen what happens to the ones who get too comfortable. There was that boy, Samus, new, eager, too trusting. You still remember waking to the sound of muffled screams. No one spoke of what happened, not officially, but after that night, there were fewer smiles below deck, and more men started sleeping closer to the hatch. Historians still debate how often pirates killed their own in sleep. The records are sparse, the details vague. Some suggest it was rare. Pirates needed every able body. Others argue it was more common than anyone admits, that silence was cheaper than justice. You glance across the deck. A shape stirs, just a man rolling over, probably. Still, your fingers grip the knife tighter, and that's the way it has to be. Because out here, trust is something you gamble, sleep is something you ration, and your life, well, it rests exactly where your hand is right now, curled tight around cold steel, beneath a sky that doesn't care if you see the sunrise. And maybe if the waves are kind, you'll drift off for an hour or two, but you'll never drift far. You don't expect to dream, not out here. not on this battered deck with salt in your teeth and calluses on your soul. But it happens, eventually, despite the rocking of the ship, the snoring from the hammocks, and the occasional rat scuttling across your boots. Sleep takes you, and when it does, the sea comes with it. Your dreams are rarely gentle. There's no feather bed, no glowing hearth. Instead, you see flashes, gulls screaming overhead, storm clouds coiling like snakes, a face you can't name staring up from beneath black water. Your chest tightens. You wake with a jolt, breathing like you've been running. But sometimes the dreams are sweet. Sometimes it's a tavern, a warm hand, a heavy coin pouch, and no one chasing you. Laughter, fresh bread, clean water, a fire that doesn't smoke. You wake from these slower, dragging your consciousness back like an anchor through mud, and the loss cuts deeper than you expect. A widely accepted fact. Pirates, like all sailors, suffered from vivid and often disturbing dreams due to exhaustion, hunger, dehydration, and stress. The isolation of sea life and lack of REM sleep often led to vivid hallucinations and nightmares. A lesser known detail: some pirates kept dream journals of sorts, scratches on the walls, carved initials, cryptic symbols burned into wood with candle soot, traces of their inner lives that were otherwise left unspoken. Dreams were considered omens, warnings, or occasionally memories of lives once lived. You think about carving something yourself, a face you saw last night, or maybe it was years ago. It's hard to tell anymore. Historians still debate how seriously pirates took their dreams. Some believe they dismissed them as the byproduct of rum and sleeplessness. Others argue dreams were interpreted like messages from the sea, personal, prophetic, and worth remembering. You look up at the stars again, their light silver on the sailcloth. You wonder what you'll see tonight when your eyes finally stay shut. Will it be the storm, the voice you miss, or will it be the deep, dark silence where no one follows? You lie back, the deck groans beneath you, and you drift, not peacefully, but far, far from this ship, far from yourself, until the creak of the ropes sounds like music, and even the sea seems to hush, just for a little while. You always imagined silence at sea would feel peaceful. It doesn't. Not this kind of silence. Not the dead calm, breath-held, godless silence that happens when the wind dies, when the sails hang limp like the corpses of old flags, and the ship becomes a floating coffin on a mirror-flat sea. Tonight is one of those nights. No wind, no motion, just stillness. Even the waves seem to pause, frozen in mid-lap, like they, too, are holding their breath. You lie on the deck, not from choice, but from a kind of surrender. The air is thick and warm, sticking to your skin like a fevered dream. Sweat collects in the folds of your shirt. Every breath tastes like wood, old rope, and stale rum. The ship creaks, not in rhythm, but randomly, unnervingly, and beneath that, nothing. No gulls, no splash, no voices. A widely accepted fact. Ships in the age of sail were at the mercy of the wind, and when it vanished, crews could sit adrift for days. No forward motion, no breeze to cool the skin, and nothing to do but wait. This led to dehydration, fights, and in extreme cases, madness. A lesser known detail: some pirate crews believed the wind was controlled by spirits, or worse, by curses. There were reports of men whispering apologies to the sea, or tossing coins overboard to buy a breeze. You've seen it yourself. A desperate man holding a dagger to the mast, threatening the ship to move or be cut apart. Historians still debate how much of this was theater and how much was fear. But you've seen the look in a man's eyes on a windless night, and you know it's real. The silence makes cowards of all of us. You shift slightly, your shirt clinging to your back. Even the bugs have gone quiet. Somewhere nearby, someone mutters a prayer, maybe to God, maybe to the wind itself. And in this silence, sleep becomes a strange thing. You can't sink into it. You hover, mind flickering between the memory of storms and the wish for one, anything to break the stillness. You imagine the creak of the mast is the sound of breathing, that the ship itself is alive and just waiting. For what? You don't know. Maybe for you to close your eyes. Maybe for someone to go mad. Or maybe for the wind to return. You look up. The sails hang above you like the wings of a fallen bird. And you hope, faintly, foolishly, that come morning they'll rise again. Down here, below deck, the air is heavier, thicker with sweat, smoke, and the lingering scent of black powder. You duck under a low beam, brushing aside a hanging rope that might have once held a lantern, now swinging like a noose in the dark. This is the ship's belly, its lungs, its heart, and its coffin. If you're not careful, you've chosen a corner near the powder magazine, not because it's safe, it's not, but because it's dry. The barrels of gunpowder are stacked tightly, marked with crude symbols and sealed with wax. They're supposed to be stable, supposed to be safe, but every man aboard knows one wrong spark, and you'll all be flying in different directions, none of them toward heaven. Still, sleep calls. Even here, a widely accepted fact. Powder storage was considered sacred space aboard pirate ships, restricted, watched, and feared. Men slept near it only when space ran out, or when they preferred the dry, quiet corners to the noisy chaos of hammocks and snores. A lesser-known detail: some pirates carved charms or crude protective sigils onto the barrels, believing they'd guard the crew from accidental ignition or sabotage. Others claimed they heard whispers near the powder, a sailor's version of ghosts. You lie down on your roll, close to the bulkhead, where it's cooler. The boards are uneven beneath you, but you've learned to settle your spine into their rhythm, one arm tucked under your head, the other resting across your chest, just above your heart. Because here, surrounded by silent death and flammable fortune, you listen more carefully. There's a dripping noise somewhere. Water, probably, or sweat. And there's the sound of breath, not yours, slow, labored, coming from a bunk a few feet away. Someone too tired to snore, too far gone to care. You wonder if he's dreaming of land, of green hills and rivers, and quiet places, or if, like you, he's dreaming of fire. Historians still wonder how often pirate ships exploded from within. There are logs and tales. Some say sabotage, Others just accidents in the dark. One dropped lantern, one spark from flint, one careless hand. You run your thumb over the wood next to you, worn smooth from years of sweat and prayers. It smells faintly of salt and sulfur. Above you, the deck groans. Someone laughs faintly, sharp, unhinged. You close your eyes, but your mind stays awake, tracing escape routes in the dark. If the barrels go, if the fuse runs, if someone makes a mistake, you'll have no time. But until then, you sleep near the powder, because even death can be a mattress. If you learn to lie still enough, there's a special kind of fear that wakes you before the danger arrives. Not a sound, not a touch, just something in the air, like the ship itself knows something is coming. Tonight it begins in silence. Then, without warning, the wind slams the sails. A whip crack, wood screams. The entire ship lists slightly, like a man slipping on wet cobblestone, and you're on your feet before you know why. Your body remembers storms better than your brain does. The air smells like copper and rain. Your tongue tastes lightning. You scramble out from your corner near the barrels, boots thudding against the groaning planks. Around you, men are yelling, some awake, some still half dreaming, grabbing their coats and ropes and knives. The ship bucks again. Harder now, hammocks sway like gallows. A bottle rolls past your foot and shatters against a bulkhead. A widely accepted fact. Pirate ships were light, fast, and nimble, but they were not built for comfort in storms. They were built to run and fight, not to endure, which meant when the skies turned black, every soul aboard became part of the rigging. A lesser known detail: some pirates refused to sleep during bad weather, believing lightning would strike the ship if too many men were unconscious at once. Others wore iron charms or muttered old sailor rhymes that were meant to tie the wind in knots. Your boots slip on the slick deck as you climb topside. Rain lashes your face like 1,000 needles. The sea is boiling, furious and dark, with foam that glows faintly where it crests. Lanterns swing wildly. Some have gone out. The wind howls, not like a wolf, but like something older, angrier. You throw yourself against the capstan, bracing a line. Your hands are raw, rope burned and blistered, but your heart is steady. It always is in storms. Sleep becomes a memory, far away and soft, like a lullaby sung in a language you forgot. Historians still debate whether pirate crews had true storm protocols, or if they simply relied on experience and instinct. Logbooks rarely survive the wrecks that storms left behind, and those who lived didn't write much down. A wave crashes over the deck, knocking a man off his feet. You help him up, nod once. No words needed. The sails are reefed. The bow rises and drops like a beast rearing in pain. And for a strange, terrible moment, you feel alive, exhausted, but alive. When the worst of the wind passes, an hour, maybe two, you're drenched to the bone. Your clothes hang heavy, your fingers numb. You drop to the deck beside the foremast and breathe, chest heaving like a bellows. Someone laughs. You think it might be you, because storms come and go. Sleep comes and goes, but the sea, she stays, and you get back up again. Some nights feel longer than others, and then there are nights like this when time seems to stop altogether. You've stopped checking the stars. The sky is too clouded anyway. A blank gray-black ceiling that gives nothing back. You lie still on the damp planks, back pressed against the gentle curve of the hull, one boot propped against a coil of line. You've wrapped your coat around your chest so many times it feels like armor now. Threadbare, seawater soaked armor. The candle stub beside you burned out hours ago. You didn't notice when, just like you didn't notice when the ship stopped rocking gently and started moaning, groaning like something sick and dying. The darkness is complete, not just the absence of light, but a thick, old silence that makes the mind wander to places it shouldn't. You imagine land, firelight, a bed that doesn't sway, a ceiling that doesn't leak. You imagine your mother, though you haven't seen her face in years. She would have hated this life for you, a widely accepted fact. The worst hours at sea were those just before dawn. Sailors called it the dead watch, when the body ached with hunger and fatigue, and the brain, left to its own devices, turned cruel. A lesser known detail: some pirates kept time not by clocks, but by heartbeat. They'd tap their own chest, or count the slow rise and fall of their breath, convincing themselves that if they could count to 1,000, the sun would surely rise. You try it now. 1, 2, 3. Each breath pulls in the stale, briny air. There's a faint sweetness to it. Mold, maybe, or rot. Somewhere above you, someone coughs in their sleep or wakes. You can't tell. Your eyes are dry, not from sleep. No, that hasn't come yet, but from staring too long into nothing. You think of the man who used to whistle when he couldn't sleep. He's gone now. No one speaks his name. That's the rule. And you wonder, not for the first time, if you'll ever reach a place where morning doesn't feel like a distant rumor. Historians still debate whether pirate crews developed coping mechanisms for nights like these. Some believe they told stories, hushed, whispered tales to each other in the dark. Others think they simply endured in silence, alone together. You shift, feeling the damp beneath your hips. You tell yourself that if the sun rises in the next 10 minutes, you'll never complain again. But you won't keep that promise, because if there's one thing this life has taught you, it's that time stretches differently on the ocean. Nights are longer, thoughts are louder, and morning, when it finally comes, doesn't rescue you. It just starts it all over again. Still, you wait, because waiting is all there is. And if dawn refuses to come, then you'll face it like you do everything else, with salt on your skin, a blade at your side, and eyes that have seen too much to close easily. There's no trumpet, no golden light washing the decks clean, no choir of gulls crying freedom from the skies. Morning at sea just happens, slowly, cruelly. It creeps in beneath the sails, slides across your face like a thief's hand. A faint silver glow on the horizon, not enough to warm you, just enough to show you everything you'd hoped not to see. You're still here, still soaked, still cold, still tired in a way that sleep can't fix. And somehow, that's the most sobering thing of all. The deck beneath you has begun to dry. Not fast, not much, just enough for the wood to start creaking like it's waking from its own broken dreams. You sit up slowly, joints stiff, back sore, mouth sour. You've survived another night, but it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like delay, a widely accepted fact. Mornings at sea were when most injuries were discovered, when absences were noticed, when the cost of the previous night came due. A lost hand, a missing crewmate, a broken beam. No one ever really slept on a pirate ship. They just endured until morning. A lesser known detail: some pirates kept tokens, a scrap of cloth, a bone button, a ring of iron, to hold while they slept, not for luck, but to prove they had woken up with it, to know they were still themselves when the light came back. You reach into your coat. The small shell you keep in your pocket is still there, smooth, pale, and worn flat by your thumb. You don't remember where you found it, only that it's been with you through countless storms, skirmishes, and sleepless nights. Historians still wonder how much of a toll this life truly took. Not the obvious injuries, those are easy to count, but the subtle ones, the hollowness, the thousand-yard stares, the quiet songs hummed to no one. You rise slowly, stretch your arms, hear the familiar pops in your spine. The crew begins to stir around you like a city, waking from a long, hungry winter. Boots thump, curses fly, ropes are checked, buckets are filled. You catch your reflection in a bit of still water pooled in a crack of the deck. You look older than yesterday, more tired, but you're still here, and that, in this world, is something. The sun climbs, hesitant and watery, but steady. You watch it light up the sails, the ropes, the hands of the man next to you as he fumbles to relight a pipe. No one celebrates, no one rests. The sea doesn't give you time for that. You shoulder your coat, adjust your belt, and fall back into rhythm, because the ship moves on, and so must you. The wind is light, but present. The smell of the tide is stronger now, fresher. Maybe an island lies ahead, maybe nothing. You breathe deeply, the kind of breath that starts at your heels and climbs to your chest, the kind you only get when you've passed through something and come out on the other side. This wasn't rest, but it was survival, and in this life, that's enough. The sails are full again. The sun hangs pale and harmless in the sky. The waves have softened, not calm, never calm, but polite, as if the sea, for once, is willing to let you breathe, and you do. But it feels strange, not peaceful, not restful, just strange, because survival, in its own quiet way, carries a weight, a question whispered at the edge of every moment. What now? You lean against the railing, hands gripping the salt-crusted wood. Below you, the sea is green and gold, glinting in the morning light. You've stood here 100 times, maybe more, but today it feels different. You lived through the night again, and now there's space in your mind. Room for thoughts you usually keep buried, old regrets, forgotten names, things that slipped away when every breath was a struggle and every shadow held a blade. A widely accepted fact: pirate crews often experienced after danger fatigue, a strange dreamlike state following storms, battles, or long stretches of sleepless nights. Their bodies were safe, but their minds were untethered. A lesser known detail: some pirates, after surviving nights like the one you just endured, would go completely silent for hours or even days, not out of trauma, but as if something inside had gone too far, stretched too thin, and needed to return slowly. You don't speak, not yet. You just watch the horizon, blinking into the light. Around you, the crew is beginning to move again. Someone's sharpening a blade. Someone else is patching a torn sail. You hear laughter, but it's thin, fragile, like the ship itself isn't sure if it's allowed. Historians still wonder how pirates process survival in the long term. Most didn't leave journals. There are only scraps, bones with nicks, coins sewn into hems, initials carved into hidden panels, evidence that they lived, but little about what they felt. You slide your hand into your coat and feel the small shell again, still there, still smooth, still yours. You survived the night, but that doesn't mean you're rested. It just means you get to keep going, and sometimes that's harder. The sun has been up for hours now, but it doesn't feel warm. The light hits the deck at a slant, casting long shadows that look too much like people. And for a moment, just one, you think you see someone standing near the stern who isn't there. You blink, gone, but the feeling lingers. You walk slowly, boots thudding on damp wood, every step a quiet test. Am I still here? Did I make it through? And more importantly, what did it cost? One man is missing. You notice before anyone says it aloud. His hammock is empty, his coat gone. No blood, no note, just absence, like the sea reached up in the dark and quietly collected what the night left behind. A widely accepted fact. Men went missing from pirate ships more often than records admit. Lost in storms, in silence, in shadows, sometimes overboard, sometimes not. Sometimes no one asked. A lesser known detail in some crews: when a man vanished, they'd leave his place untouched for one full day, his cup unwashed, his hammock still swaying, as if to give the sea time to bring him back. You pass the empty spot now. No one speaks of it. A few glance. One man mutters something under his breath. Maybe a name, maybe just a curse. You wonder if the missing man had enemies, or if the ship just took him, because the sea is like that. It gives you salt and hunger and stars. And then, when it feels like it, it takes, not with thunder, not with blood, just a quiet, permanent subtraction. Historians still debate whether these vanishings were murder, accident, or myth. Did the crew look the other way? Was it punishment, madness, or something stranger? Something that doesn't fit into tidy footnotes. You look over the side. The waves roll slow and lazy, innocent, but you know better. The sea is always hungry, and what it doesn't eat at night, it often comes back for in the morning. And you, still breathing, still upright, start to feel like a thief. You stole another sunrise, and part of you wonders how long you can keep getting away with it. The sun climbs higher, spilling warm but weak light across the ship's deck. It's a slow awakening, not just of the world around you, but of the worn-out bones and ragged spirit beneath your skin. You're stiff from the long night, muscles cramping from 1,000 small aches that didn't exist yesterday. Your hands move automatically, pulling out the salt-stained cloth you keep tucked away and wiping grit from your face and arms. The salt water stings the small cuts and scrapes you haven't noticed yet. You don't wince. You've learned not to. Around you, the crew engages in quiet morning rituals. The clink of mugs, the scrape of blades being cleaned, the murmur of prayers or curses, each one a small act of renewal, a brief defiance of the chaos that waits just beyond the horizon. A widely accepted fact: pirates often followed simple routines to reset themselves after long sleepless nights, cleaning weapons, repairing sails, sharing small meals, and sometimes ritualistic washing to wash away not just dirt, but the weight of fear. A lesser known detail: some crews believed washing in the salty seawater was purifying, not just for the body, but the soul, a way to cast off bad dreams or the shadows of the night. You step to the railing and lean over, letting the cool spray mist your face. It's a brief shock, but welcome. The sea smells sharper now, fresher, as if it too has been washed clean. You catch your reflection in a pool of water on the deck. It's a face you recognize, but somehow worn thinner, etched by sleepless nights and salty air. The eyes are sharper though, always sharper. Historians still wonder how much these small rituals helped pirates keep their humanity. Some say they were survival tactics, others that they were the last threads tying men to the world they left behind. You breathe in deeply and close your eyes. The wind catches your hair, and for a moment, the noise of the world falls away. Maybe today you think you'll find a moment of peace, or maybe not, because on a pirate ship, peace is the rarest treasure of all. The morning sun has climbed high, painting everything in sharp, unyielding light. The deck buzzes with activity, men hauling lines, mending sails, sharpening cutlasses. But even in the bustle, you feel the invisible weight pressing down, a silent presence that clings like damp canvas. You pause near the railing, fingers tracing the salt-worn wood. It reminds you of other ships, other nights, other faces, faces that once filled the quarters, now lost to the sea or to time. Memory on a pirate ship is a strange thing. It is both refuge and torment. The familiar ache in your chest is less about the fatigue and more about what you carry with you: the names, the laughter, the betrayals, and the ghosts that never leave. A widely accepted fact: sailors and pirates alike often remembered fallen comrades through quiet rituals, tossing a coin overboard, carving initials into wood, or sharing whispered stories. These acts kept the dead alive in the minds of the living. A lesser known detail: some pirates believed that if their memories faded too quickly, their souls would be lost at sea. They guarded stories like treasure, passing them down in whispered legends and crude drawings. You run your hand along the rail again, feeling the grooves carved by countless hands. The smell of salt and tar and sweat fills your nostrils. It is the scent of survival and of loss. Historians still debate how deeply the burden of loss shaped pirate culture. Was it a source of strength, binding crews together, or a silent poison eating away at trust and sanity? You look out at the horizon, where the sea meets sky in a thin, trembling line. For a moment, the past and present blur. The ship creaks beneath your feet, a steady, somber heartbeat, and you realize that the memories you carry are not just shadows. They are your compass, guiding you through the endless night and into the dawn. Even as the sun climbs higher and the crew busies itself with tasks, there's a subtle shift in the air, a tension that refuses to fade with the dawn's promise. You feel it, a low hum under the ordinary sounds of the ship, the scrape of boots, the snap of ropes, the quiet murmur of voices. It's the lingering fear, a shadow that doesn't leave just because night ends. You walk the length of the deck slowly, eyes scanning the horizon, then falling on your crewmates. Their faces are worn, some tired smiles, some hardened by experience, but beneath their expressions, you know the same restless thought beats. What if the night comes again? A widely accepted fact. Pirates lived constantly on edge. The ocean's unpredictability, rival crews, betrayal within their own ranks. Every day held potential for disaster, and that dread never fully lifted. A lesser known detail: some pirates developed rituals to ease this fear, a particular knot tied in their ropes, a certain chant, or even the wearing of a trinket believed to ward off misfortune. These small acts created a fragile sense of control in an uncontrollable world. You touch the small charm hanging from your neck, a smooth pebble tied with worn leather. It doesn't guarantee safety, but it offers a sliver of comfort. Historians still debate how much this undercurrent of fear influenced pirate decisions. Did it make them bolder to outsmart death, or more cautious to avoid it? Perhaps both. You pause near the mast, listening to the wind sigh through the rigging. The sounds are familiar, but carry a new weight. You think of the night's horrors, the silent threats, the cold watches, the invisible dangers lurking just beyond sight. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still standing. The morning light may promise safety, but you know better, because on a pirate ship, the shadows only retreat. They never truly disappear. The crew is stirring into motion, their movements slow but deliberate, a dance practiced over countless dawns. You find yourself drawn to the quarterdeck, where the captain's small cabin sits, weather-beaten but standing firm like the man who commands it. Here, the day's rhythm begins. You reach for your coat, heavy with salt and sweat, and pull it tighter around your shoulders. The chill in the air is a reminder that though the sun is high, the sea's mood remains unpredictable. Today, the watch shifts again, the rotation of vigilance and rest that defines every sailor's life. A widely accepted fact: pirates maintained a strict watch system, dividing the day and night into shifts to keep the ship running smoothly and protect against surprise attacks or disasters. These watches were both practical and psychological, a structure amidst chaos. A lesser known detail: some crews held a small ritual before each watch change, a shared swig of watered down rum, a whispered blessing, or a quick recount of the previous watch's events. These moments created bonds of trust, essential in a world where betrayal was always just a heartbeat away. You step forward to join the new watch. Your hands brush the ropes, feeling their familiar roughness, their promise of strength and security. The sea stretches out before you, vast and unknowable, a constant challenge to every sailor's skill and resolve. Historians still debate how much these rituals helped maintain order on pirate ships, given the often fractious and rebellious nature of their crews. Some suggest these moments of ceremony were vital, keeping a fragile peace and focus. Others argue they were merely superstitions, habits born of fear. You glance at your crewmates, noting the tired but determined faces. Each one carries their own stories, their own ghosts, yet together you form a moving tapestry, each thread essential. The watch begins. Your eyes scan the horizon. Your mind sharpens. Because out here, vigilance isn't just a duty, it's survival, and the sea never sleeps. As the morning stretches on, the ship settles into a rhythm, a strange kind of calm that seems almost unnatural after the chaos of night. You find yourself in one of those rare pockets of peace where the noise fades and all that remains is the gentle slap of water against the hull and the whisper of wind through the rigging. You lean against the rail, watching the horizon blur between sea and sky. The sun's warmth touches your skin, drying the salt and sweat, but you feel none of the comfort it should bring. Instead, there's an emptiness, a void where fear once sat heavily, a widely accepted fact. Sailors often sought these quiet moments to regain strength and clarity, using them to reflect, to plan, and sometimes to mourn. The sea offered no respite, but in its vastness, moments of stillness were sacred. A lesser known detail: some pirates carried small talismans, carved bones, pieces of sea glass, or knotted cords that they would hold during these quiet times as anchors to the world and reminders of home. You reach into your coat pocket and fingers brush the smooth shell you've carried for months. Its familiarity is a small comfort, a link to something beyond the endless waves. Historians still debate how these solitary moments shaped pirate psychology. Did they foster resilience or deepen isolation? Perhaps both, in equal measure. You close your eyes, letting the sun's warmth seep in, imagining the smell of fresh earth or the sound of a forest breeze. For a fleeting second, you forget the ship, the crew, the dangers that lie just beyond sight. But the moment passes, as all moments do. You open your eyes. The ship creaks, the wind picks up, the watch calls out, and you are reminded that the sea's calm is never permanent. It's just the silence before the next storm. The afternoon sun hangs heavy now, casting long shadows over the deck, where the crew moves with a slow weariness, weighed down by exhaustion that sleep could never fully erase. You feel it too, that restless edge beneath your skin, the way your body longs for rest but your mind refuses to settle. Sleep on a pirate ship is a fickle thing. You might close your eyes and drift, only to be jolted awake by a sudden noise, a shifting sail, or a creak that sounds like a warning. Or you might find yourself staring into the dark hours, heart racing, mind spinning stories darker than the night. A widely accepted fact. Chronic sleep deprivation was common among pirates, contributing to poor decision making, heightened paranoia, and sometimes strange behavior that crept into legends. A lesser known detail: some crews developed superstitions around sleep, believing that falling asleep in the wrong place could invite spirits, or that dreaming of certain symbols foretold doom or fortune. You sit on a coil of rope, head bowed, letting the salty wind cool your fevered thoughts. You wonder what it means, this endless cycle of exhaustion and vigilance. Historians still debate how much of pirate folklore arose from these sleep-deprived states, blurring the lines between reality and nightmare. You pull your coat tighter and try once more to rest, knowing full well the sea's call will come again before long, because on this ship, sleep is not a refuge. It's just a brief pause in the endless watch. As the afternoon deepens, the wind shifts, carrying with it a strange mix of scents: salt, tar, smoke from distant fires, and something else you can't quite place. It's the sea whispering secrets, stories folded into every gust and ripple. You stand at the bow, eyes squinting against the sun's glare, listening to the ocean's quiet voice. It hums like an old song, half forgotten but hauntingly familiar. A widely accepted fact: sailors believed the wind carried messages, warnings from other ships, news of storms, or even omens from the spirit world. Navigating by wind and wave was as much art as science. A lesser known detail: some pirates had secret codes, rhythms tapped on wood, whistle patterns, or subtle gestures that used the wind's sound as a medium for communication during times of danger. You trace the line of the horizon where sea and sky meet, feeling the pulse of the world beneath your feet. The ship responds, creaking and flexing as if alive. Historians still wonder how much pirate crews relied on these informal signals, and how much was myth or imagination born of isolation and fear. You inhale deeply, tasting the salt and mystery, letting the sea's whisper settle into your bones. Because here, in the vastness of water and wind, you're never truly alone, only waiting. The sea has carried you through long nights and restless dawns, through storms and silence, shadows and whispers. Now, as the light softens and the world grows quiet once again, you feel the slow pull of rest, a gentle tide drawing you down beneath the waves of waking thought. Breathe deeply. Let the steady rhythm of your breath match the endless pulse of the ocean. Feel your body soften, muscles unwinding, heart slowing to the quiet beat of peace. The salty air wraps around you like a familiar blanket, cool and soothing. Imagine the ship rocking gently beneath you, cradling you in its wooden arms. The sails whisper secrets to the wind, a lullaby just for you. Above, the stars begin to twinkle faintly, distant fires in the vast dark sky. Here, in this calm, there is no fear, no storm, no need for vigilance, just the quiet companionship of sea and night, endless and enduring, Let your thoughts drift like a feather on the tide. You have survived, and now you rest. Sleep will come, soft, deep, and renewing, like the gentle waves that carry you onward. Good night, sailor, until the next dawn.